This is really where we're going to dig in a little bit deeper in terms of like your journey, which, this is so interesting, really. So can you remember how you came across me, how we came across each other, and kind of like, I don't know if it's specifically a problem, but what was the need or the reason? Yes, how we met and what made you sign up to work with me to become a TEDx speaker?
I remember very well. We were at the podcasting conference in San Diego.
So glamorous. Yeah.
2019, it must have been. The fall of 2019.
Yeah, pre-pandemic. We should say the fall of the world, when everything went crazy.
And I had gone over from the UK to try and learn a way of generating traffic for the online courses that I'm developing to do with helping entrepreneurs on their path to exit, including exit planning and growing the business prior to that. So you were a fellow Brit there, but of course you lived in the States.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the conference, you were telling me about what you do and how you help people get TEDx talks. And you probably asked me whether I'd ever thought of it. And I don't think I really had. I mean, it wasn't on my bucket list.
Because I think it was obviously, because you was obviously getting in the podcasting side of things, interested in that in terms of getting your message out there.
Yes. I mean, it's a bit like saying to somebody who's not even an actor, would you like to win an Oscar? I mean, the idea of a TEDx talk was just, it wasn't even a vision because I just didn't even think it was possible.
I might quote you on that. I've never heard it. I like that. I'm going to use that. Asking an actor if they win an Oscar. I like it.
Feel free. Well, asking a non-actor if they want to win an Oscar.
Exactly.
I mean, that was just many bridges too far. But so the first thing you did for me was you enabled me to believe that I might even be able to do it. That's not to be underestimated. You then enabled me to know how to do it, because I mean, I think even if I would have been walking around thinking I'd love to do a TEDx talk one day, I wouldn't have known where to begin or how to start. And being busy in life, earning a living with one's business, I would just never have got there.
Yeah.
But what you were proposing was a modular coaching program which enabled one to sort of eat the elephant a bite at a time.
Yeah, step by step. Yeah, linear going forward.
And without that, I would never have got there. And I mean, I like that idea. And you offered me that course. And I think you also were kind enough to offer me a sort of delayed start because I wasn't.
Yes, and that's the other thing, because there's never a perfect time, is there? But I know you had some legit reasons, and it made logical sense to me. Sometimes. Sometimes some people just say, "Oh, I'm not ready," or like there's no real reason not to get going. But you had some key things, and it was like we had a planned start. Then the pandemic hit, so we delayed the start, and it made sense to delay it at the time. Yeah.
Yes, and during the pandemic, I was becoming increasingly exercised by how divisive these debates about all the pandemic issues were, but they really matter. I mean. And I started thinking, there are bigger issues going on in the world than, just me trying to earn a living. And okay, it's fine to help people exit well, but, I wanted to start trying to deal with some of the bigger issues in society.
Yeah.
Which the politicians aren't even talking about.
In terms of your start date and around that time as well, I know it wasn't the perfect time to sort of sign up and get, when we didn't get going straight away, we had a kind of delayed start, or we had a planned start. I think we had a stuttered start. We started for a little bit, and then you ultimately down tools and because the world went crazy and there was rightly so other priorities, and you put it to the side. But when you were signing up, what was your biggest concern, if any, or you must have had some concerns in terms of signing up around that period? Can you remember? Because someone else might relate. Was it the fact that you thought it might not work for you, or you might not be able to achieve it, or I might not be able to show you?
I think it was, it was a remote possibility in many respects. I mean, I suppose at the time I signed up, I thought this would be a great way of getting publicity around my work area, which is, if you like, negotiations and M&A and how to sell a business.
Yeah.
But I had no idea how to turn that into a talk. I wasn't clear what the content would be. So that was one challenge. Another challenge was I had no idea how one connected with the organizers, or that it was possible to even go in search of organizers, or that they had themes, So you were offering a way to contact the organizers, and indeed you interview organizers, and you knew your way into the terrain.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you touched on it a little bit there with the, what in your opinion, and not like you've done loads of programs like this, but what do you think was different about my approach, the program, my coaching, my consultant, whatever you want to call it?
Well, I hadn't come across anyone else offering a plan to do this.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked into it. So I can't.
No, I suppose what would you say was some of the key pieces? I mean, you touched on the interviewing the organisers as a podcaster, or what were some of the key things? They don't have to be unique, but key things that had an impact for you going through this process. And I know you mentioned before one of my the kind of the almost an unquantifiable thing that I did come back around and be like, "Hey, David, let's do this." Like way down the line when you it almost felt like you'd put it to the side, if not permanently.
Way down the line. I mean, from your perspective, I must have been the client from hell, really, in the sense that, it was a bit stop and start. Well, mind you, we had the pandemic, but, it must be like herding cats and difficult for you. But in spite of that, you remained positive and charming and helpful. Honestly, I don't think I could have done the same, but you were always encouraging. Something that was very encouraging was you were encouraging about the possibility of developing an idea from a seed, really. You're convinced that everyone has it in them. And I think that's probably true. And I would also say one could make the point that the whole exercise is a very productive exercise in pushing you to work out your thinking on a particular area. So people who haven't got clarity on even what they want to talk about, as long as there's something that they're interested in developing their thoughts around, this is a wonderful way to do it.
Awesome.
I suppose the process pushes you to develop your thoughts around something that matters, to people.
And obviously, we've been talking about the stop-start nature of us. So I'm going to actually try and quantify aspects. I love my stats as well. I believe it was it October, not this year, October, November, when you basically picked it up and went, right, let's, kind of like I'm going to do it. We're going to get started. And we looked at it like a clean start, and this is it. Because like the pandemic's kind of tailing off, events are opening up a lot, and it was like, now's a good time. And I know we got it sooner than we thought in some ways. A bit of so I think it was like November. We really started, you really started cracking on with it and turned up to a couple of meetings, and we're doing some little coaching. And then, again, quite rare, the event you got in the end ended up being quite a short turnaround time, at least when you knew. So from when you started, let's just say, I would say like November 1st, so that's December, you applied to this event, was it early January?
I think it was in December that I was doing I think the first module was developing the germ of the idea, and I was fairly clear that I wanted to do something around disagreements and try and come up with a constructive spin on how to approach them. But then we were quickly into starting to research venues and look for themes. And given the travel difficulties at the time, because the pandemic wasn't over, I was focused on the UK. As I otherwise perhaps wouldn't have been so focused narrowly. I certainly couldn't travel to the US at that stage.
International, though, you end up doing it in Edinburgh, Scotland. I know.
So I was looking in the UK, and I was looking for a theme, and there were very few with themes. And the Edinburgh one had the theme, "This is us, here we are emerging from the pandemic, future challenges, past challenges."
And the date of your actual talk was it the end of March? Was it March?
Well, no, they were talking about January the 12th.
Whoa!
So this was a hell of a vertical takeoff.
I remember it being almost like not a long shot, but again, I think I encouraged you to put it in, and it was kind of like expecting this will be our one to kind of again learn a lot from it. But the time is probably a bit too. You're probably too late, but you never know.
And what I hadn't appreciated is these TEDx groups, they do one a year. So you've really got to start researching early.
Yes, definitely. I think we might have been saying we could maybe get it on the back end the next year if it's too late. At least you can kind of make that connection. Yeah.
So they got back to me saying they hadn't actually got their sponsors lined up and there were some delays. They'd be back in touch.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything for a long time. And then I think I changed emails by the time I luckily checked back, and it was just it was in February I checked back.
Yeah.
And they were saying, yes, we'd like to take you forward.
Yeah, because we were both late finding this out. I think so officially from their point of view, they let you know mid-January, maybe, or late January.
Or maybe early February, and they wanted a draft and an audio script.
Yes, we got David. So I'm just going. So you secured your TEDx in 3 months or under. I can roughly, approximately. If we didn't, this is the interesting thing, because if anyone's listening, it's always different. So in a perfect world, you think, oh, that's a reasonably tight timeline, but because of your email issue, you didn't find out till, what was it, 6 weeks before your talk, or less? Was it 5 weeks?
But it was about 6 weeks, and I had about 2 or 3 days in which to produce the mind map and an audio version.
Yeah, it was like and again, we talked about the positives. It's going to be over in 6 weeks. You got a lot of work to do.
You were great. You were relentlessly positive. There I was on module 2 or 3 or something. I hadn't posted module 3 or 4. You were prompting me to do that, and here we were, gunning for the goal mouth. And you managed.
I love a deadline. Love an immovable deadline.
But honestly, you are a brilliant coach, Adam. Really, in being relentlessly positive and encouraging.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Really, honestly, it's a real gift. Because we had to keep tailoring our cloth for the available time. Because I also had work and projects pressing on. It was hard to get down to it.
Yes.
And, I know you
I was going spring break. We got it in just before my spring break. Now I'm American, or almost American. I had to go on spring break, obviously. But
you let me in extra sessions.
Yeah.
And
that was a pleasure here, just seeing it come together. And I know certain clients before, when times get tight, they may have missed that last session. And I'm like, well, you really could do it, and I know in your last session, it was a lot of changes, a lot of tweaks, and
Your input was absolutely vital, because by the time, I was working with a mind map, so I had more stuff in the mind map than I could get into the talk, really. And the talk that I had, as you pointed out, was about, I need to cut it by a third, I think you said.
Yeah.
And also there were some bits that I felt were important. They were the conclusions that weren't anchored back into the body of the thing.
Yeah.
So that whole process of condensing it meant reworking it to some extent, so that the conclusions were worked back into the stories, and also the stories were more tightly focused on the points I needed at the conclusion. So that's a whole vital stage, which did get rather condensed. But without your input, I would have had something that didn't feel cohesive.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse than if you've done the work to land your TEDx, to then feeling like doing it and then feeling like, oh, I'm gonna have to do another one down the line because it didn't quite come together. And so wow. So obviously the recording of this, your talk isn't out yet. You've done your TEDx. I mean, recommend that I would put on your TEDx. I mean, start using it. I know you had a poster even before, when you secured it, you put that poster out there that you secured your TEDx, and that I know that got a lot of interest as well. And so I would start using in your signature line TEDx speaker, just subtly in there. I would also suggest on your LinkedIn TEDx speaker. It's there. You're a TEDx speaker, and any speaking events you're involved in, or any bios, anytime you get interviewed on a podcast now, I would just put it across the board now. And then when that video comes out, then you can put the links in the appropriate places. But I would start, in terms of that credibility, and you've done what many haven't, and you're a TEDx speaker. So I would start using it and leveraging it subtly in that way, because it will start doing its job there as well.
Thank you. Yes, I should do that. Can you tell me what is the process of editing these videos? Is that done by the TED organization, or is that?
No. So again, for anyone listening as well, so your event organizers, it's in their hands. Once they submit it to the YouTube TED, it's it. And so actually, this is a little bit of extra. on top of that side, because again, not a mistake I made, but something I wasn't aware of for my one. Once they put in your TED Talk title, once they pass it on to TED and YouTube, that's it. So it would be a great opportunity. You're about a week after your event to reach out to them and just make sure you're both on the same page about what your talk is officially going to be called and put up there, because they made a huge mistake on mine, and it's a very long talk, and they basically put my subheading as the title, and I don't assume that we were going to work on the title. You can completely change the title, depending what they want to do. So that's something that, again, now you've got time to breathe. You can make sure you get the title that's right for you and they're happy with it, and even get some feedback from them. Because once they put it up, I asked my organizers and Ted directly, hey, it's the wrong title. Can we just edit it? And no, the only way they can do that, they have to take down your talk and you have to re-upload it, or not you, your organizers, and you'd lose all the views by that point. And you've got that initial hit as I did, and I would have lost a few thousand views. And I wasn't willing to do that. And they wouldn't even delete, not change the name. They wouldn't even delete. I said, it's a mistake, no change of the name, just deleting like the last 4 or 5 words off the title because it's too long. So that would be something you can now give that a little thought, or just even inquire to your organizers, when do they think they have the videos by? Usually it's a month to 3, could be quicker. But yeah, they edit it, they pass it on to Ted and they upload it, and then Ted will not change it apart from deleting it, and it'd have to be re-uploaded.
So it might take as long as 3 months, you say?
Your organizer will know. I only say that because they're just like me and you. They're people, and something big might pop up, and it'll just be something they've got to do on their to-do list. No urgency from their point, but usually I'd say within the month, because it shouldn't take longer than that. If they've got a reasonable editing team or someone doing it, it shouldn't take too long. It's just a question of their priorities and when they want to get it out. So definitely inquire to that. Yeah. I would suggest on that.
If my talk had gone over 18 minutes, would they be editing it down to get it within the 18 minutes?
Potentially, yeah. I think so. I've seen 1 or 2 over 18 minutes just. But yeah, Ted would probably notice if it was much higher than that. But yeah, the organizers, for example, if someone did like a 23-minute talk, they wouldn't put it up. They should ideally edit it down. Or they'd just say your talk's too long, we're not putting it up. But that would be pretty harsh. They'd generally edit it down. But all organizers are different. Some really go into it and like edit out, coughs, splutters, brain farts, they might edit out, but others will just, this is what you did and we're putting it up. Depends how much effort. It's like anything, everyone's always different. So I mean, we could talk for hours about this. So just in wrapping up, and we'll talk some more though, just in wrapping up, so if anyone's thinking about either doing a TEDx talk in general, they've got a message, or they got a business, they want to get more eyeballs in whatever they're doing, whether they want to go down the professional speaking route, more of an author or promotion of whatever, and they're thinking about doing a TEDx, or think it could be, and they're considering working with yours truly, what advice would you give to them? Would you recommend it?
I would absolutely recommend it. It was a really enriching thing to have done in my life. Because I realized, this is not just about one person producing their ideas. This was really an amazing group effort. You have a team of TEDx organizers who are working for months to put on an event, and they don't know what the quality is going to be. They're selecting people based on the ideas that are being offered. And then people are coming in from around the world, actually, in this case, and they're given this platform, and there's a sort of coming together of these 2 different groups of people. And also I realized, my own talk took shape through the interaction with many people. I mean, notably you, Adam, but many other people that I've been in discussion with over a long period of time. So the TEDx phenomenon, it's an amazing thing that exists for sort of getting people to produce ideas and giving them a platform. So I would say to anyone who feels that they vaguely have something in them that they want to say, because it is for ideas worth spreading. If you've got the germ of something that you feel needs to be said, don't worry that it's not clear. Don't worry that, I would say, don't even worry that you're not a speaker, because I think that you, Adam, could produce anybody who is, fired up and passionate enough about what it is they feel needs to be said. And as you pointed out, they like it to come out of the telling of stories. And, when it's quite easy to tell a story, actually. The business of memorizing 18 minutes worth is not overwhelming because you memorize the chunks.
Yeah.
And then I would strongly recommend memorizing the links as well. But I mean, basically, I ad-libbed the chunks because when I was into my stories, I could just retell the story.
Yeah.
I didn't have to memorize that word for word. So I would say, don't be put off if you don't have a terribly clear idea. It's a great opportunity to crystallize your thinking.
Yeah.
In discussion with a lot of people. Don't be put off if you think you're not a speaker even, because it's the power of your idea and your commitment to getting that message out that will carry you through. You've got a lot of good help in Adam here.
Just do the work.
Don't be put off if you don't know how to set about doing it. And, Adam will help you through because you have a nicely segmented approach that spans several months normally. And you're very good and kind at sort of just gently reminding people. I think also the pace at which you go at it is perfect. Bi-weekly, every 2 weeks was absolutely right for me. I think any longer than that, you lose the momentum.
Yeah, it's been tweaked because everyone's very busy. I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people's excuses, I'm so busy. I mean, you're very busy. I'm very busy. That's not an excuse if you genuinely want to get on the TEDx stage as you have now.
That's right. You can feather it in, and Adam's worked it out, and you've obviously worked around lots of busy people, and I think your way of doing it's great. You're not harsh on people who just can't make a particular thing, but you remind them to keep going. And because it's modular, different people in the groups are at different stages, and the people in the groups encourage each other.
Brilliant.
So it's well thought out, your program.
Thank you. Well, the exciting point is, it'd be great to do this interview now. I love to do it either just after your TEDx or even when it's out, because the other side of things, when people start this, they're always focused on the video and what that happens then. But all this process we've been talking about, the video hasn't even come out yet. So who knows what's going to happen then as well. And that's another exciting landmark. And maybe I have to speak to you again down the line and see what happens there. So I'm looking forward to seeing your TEDx talk. And obviously, please do share it with me, the group, everyone. Put it in your signature line, and I will reshare that across my social channels. And I'm excited to see what happens with that. And, in terms of who knows how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, or potentially millions that may hit. So, that's something that would be very interesting to see. Yes, I'm really excited. It might open up a new line of activity, really, because there are several ways in which it could go. Yeah, and just putting it, even if, say, a handful of people watch it, it's important who watches it, how you use it, and also just cutting that into your speaker reel. Like if I'm looking for speakers and someone either subtly shows me their speaker reel and there's cuts of them on a TEDx stage, and they say they're TEDx speaker, they go right to the top of the pile because I know there's no way around it. You've done the work. You've worked on a specific idea and you've done the work, because you don't just drop on that stage. And that's awesome. So that's the concept that I'm not even familiar with, speaker reel. We'll have to have a separate discussion. Yes. Separate training on that, Adam. Yeah, well, that's kind. But you've got you've already got a great asset coming with there. That video alone is worth thousands, and in some ways priceless, because you can't say, "Oh, can I get a video of TEDx me speaking?" You have to earn it, as you did, David. So congratulations. Thank you so much for speaking to me today. Thank you for getting me there, Adam. It absolutely wouldn't have happened without you at any stage, from soup to nuts. Awesome. You gave me the confidence that it was even a possibility. You gave me the method. You coached me through it. You kept me going when I might have given up. And the result has been it was a very moving experience of being part of this amazing human phenomenon, which TED is.